We, as a body of humanity, have found ourselves in a time of chaos, of struggle, of anxiety, fear, isolation, and depression. But this is a 3D consciousness. It is comprised of a lower density vibrational frequency because it operates in the third dimension, where we view things from a purely physical state and view ourselves as separate from others. We believe that we are in competition with others, and we operate from a concept of scarcity and victim consciousness. But we have moved out of that and into the fourth dimension, the 4D, where we begin to awaken to the understanding and the knowing that we are all connected, that there is more to life than what we can access physically, and that our thoughts and feelings impact our reality. We begin to understand that there is a greater purpose in life, and we search for something more meaningful than our materially based world. And now, as we know, we have just shifted into 5D consciousness, where we begin operating from a place of love, compassion, and authenticity. These dimensions aren't places per se, but frames of mind. Many of us are able to access these higher vibrational states from time to time, but we are in a global crisis. We are in a global place where the dark night of the soul, which represents a period of transition and a time of psychological and spiritual awakening, that shed our conditioned selves, the selves that no longer serve us so that we can step into a new way of being. This dark night of the soul is both painful and beautiful. So let's transform together. Let's talk about it. Let's be in oneness as a community. Let's do it. Let's talk. With Professor D and Piper Dellums, we'd like to start the conversation so that together, as a family, we can heal. See you there.
Just wanted to kind of just remind you that sometimes we are the saboteur, the self-saboteur. We are the sabotager. And the most hurtful thing is to step back and see that your greatest opponent is you. We want to make it as if it's the outward enemy, but usually the outward enemy is just a mirror to the inward enemy. Enemy. The enemy is me. The enemy is inside of me. So sometimes that's the hardest part of moving forward, rising above, moving ahead.
Absolutely.
And that's when you have to stop. Remember stop, drop, and roll if you're on fire?
Yep.
Drop and roll. Well, mine is, and you can bleep this out, sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up. Because in that quietness, in that stillness, and that's why it's hard for us to sleep at night when we have those things, the turmoil, or the message that are trying to come through, because I'm at the most quiet. There's no distractions. Nobody's calling me. I'm not on social media. I am in the now with who? Me.
That is the be still and know. That is the God within, that inner voice. And it is so quiet. I'm going through probably what so many other people are going through, health crisis, work crisis, also dealing with all of the trauma that we've been seeing in the news lately. And part of those things are triggering to our personal experience. But also, it's difficult sometimes to untangle the web or even the dream catcher of the experience of emotion, because we're in this collective, and this collective consciousness, this collective energy is so forceful because we're attending to so many extraordinarily traumatic and dramatic things. We're in an evolution, but we're also in a destructive phase that of course you need to tear down an old building in order to reconstruct it. But somewhere in that building you could find buried bones. And in the buried bones process of what I'm going through, some of the skeletons, the things that I thought I had left behind, are resurrecting. It's sort of, can these dry bones live? But in the opposite of them being a resurrected grace or something that would propel me forward, they're dry bones from a sepulcher that have torn me down in the past. And I'm
And
really
with that,
in my physical illness right now,
right.
that my cells have memory, my bones have memory, my tissues have memory. And that stillness you're speaking of, that small still voice, is what spoke to me last night to show me, to give me the mirror, almost a mirror of my cellular body, saying you thought that you had overcome these things, but what you did was you suppressed them. They're
Let's
still
go back.
inside, and now they're turning into masses.
Let's go back. And that right there. Okay. So don't forget that part right there. Go back to discovering the dry bones. Like, there are people who don't want to go in the basement.
Yes.
I use the analogy of the older house where I don't want to go in the basement because it's damp, it's moist, it has a smell.
It's where the ghosts live.
It's where the ghosts live. The light is out. The cellar's down there too.
Definitely.
And you don't know what the person before you or what grandma left in that cellar. So when you go down there, you are afraid of what you might find.
And it sounds like you said, what did grandma leave? Because
yeah,
what I thought about was one of those old dusty trunks. You see it in the movies, and someone's up in the cellar or down in the basement, and they pop it open and they dust off all of the debris, and they start going through those little boxes of their childhood and pictures that are memories. Last night, as I was sort of holding my body and establishing sort of a woe for myself, which is an inner voice that tears me down, I was going, wow, there was a time where I was such a strong tennis player and a swift runner, and I was a great dancer, and I was in ballet, and I could do theater, and I had this physical body, and I could make love in every possible way, and hold my babies and run my dog for hours and swim the ocean, and having a difficult time walking upstairs. And yet I'm not old enough to believe this should be happening to my temple. And my mind went through all of the pictures and everything that I had pressed down in my picture album. And instead of allowing the woe to continue, I had one moment where in the midst of crying, I started giggling. And I started giggling and I said, wow, thank you, God. I've had such beautiful experiences. What I need to do now is try to figure out how to embrace those, let them go, and resurrect what new experiences are to come, where I'm not using my body, in its full strength to actualize all of my joy and all of my memory. But what do I have left? It was like the woman with the oil and the flour. What do I have left? What is the cake? And I thought, I have my creativity, I have my mind, I have the wisdom of experiencing great Goliaths, great fires, of also having the miracles of crossing the Red Seas,
So go back. I want you to go
Yeah.
back to, you talked about the suppression.
Yes.
Because sometimes we get in that basement. Let's go back to the basement and finding those dry bones. And you found out what they were doing to your body, your physical body. Even though, you've just done all the ayahuasca, you've done the retreats, you're doing the spiritual work, but wait a minute, does that mean that those bones aren't there? That's what the question is.
What's happening now are things that I don't think I want to see. And that's because they're not things that happened to me, they're me. Even when we had that conversation yesterday and I reheard our taped conversation, I actually did some research, like, what is that where you are vomiting at the mouth and not listening and over talking and having to sort of bear witness to what is that? And I heard in my spirit, you don't feel as if you've ever been heard. You don't truly know if you have value. What I'm fighting right now in my life is saying to me, at least in my own voice, you don't have value, because if you did, God wouldn't allow you to be sick, to be divorced, to be scraping and searching. And I know that isn't true, because I know that God, being the light of the world, the quantum light, invisible light that holds all things together, kinetic energy and light, and the oneness means that there's nothing in the world where the light of the world is not a part of it. Of me going, oh, that's algae speaking, that's the enemy of my soul speaking, that's my flesh speaking. I'm equating it to, whoa, God, am I in judgment? What did I do? Why isn't this changing? I'm down on my knees, and now what I'm hearing is, these are the things you don't want to see, because we don't ever truly want to look at ourselves in the mirror, because the world has been
that is the hardest
distraction.
That's the hardest thing. I can remember when I would have my weight loss workshops where we would deal with the emotional side of it, and the hardest thing was for people to look in the mirror. Now, we have mirrors all through our house. Everybody has mirrors in their house, but there are certain mirrors that people just don't want to look in, and that is the mirror of self. But that's actually, I'm looking in the mirror right now to you, because I'm thinking of the basement. I'm thinking of, what did I do with those bones once I discovered them? Did I, was I the one that was scared to go down there and put a light bulb in? Would somebody just go down there and put a light bulb in? That's what it's about, putting a light bulb in. The basement is there. The basement ain't going nowhere. It's the foundation of the freaking house.
And you said a thing, because once you turn the lights on, girl, the roaches scatter, the rats scatter, the demons go into corners, and there are no more shadow figures.
Go with me on that. Oh, yeah, there's no more. It's exposed.
It's
and
exposed.
Do you know where we do our laundry in those old houses? In the basement.
In the basement.
Get your clothes clean.
Isn't that wild?
You got to go to the basement. You got to turn the light on, and you got to get the cleaning.
Self-exposure. And with that self-exposure also comes some regret. There's nothing worse than bearing witness when you've gone through life with a victim mindset. Not all the time, but that victim mindset has been a beautiful cloak. But when you go through life and go, wow, it's true, we reap what we sow. If we reap what we sow, then I need to figure out what seeds I was sowing and rooting. It's that recognition of the higher consciousness that says, oh, wait a minute, this is just a schoolhouse. In this incarnation, I am always a vessel of honor, because I am a perfect spirit, having a human experience. And yet, the midst of this human experience, girl, at least right now, is kicking my ass.
And you know what the part about that is? That is the great polarity of life. Everything has a polar opposite.
God.
We can't escape it. It's a universal law. You can't escape it. You got to have the light. You got to have darkness to even know what the light. We
Absolutely.
forget about the endarkenment. We forget about that, and we don't want to go over there.
But we do go there. But this is part of the collective consciousness. This is why we're so distraught. I love that you talked about the polarity. This is so real. But think about the world, what we're attending to when we watch the news, when we go through social media, all of this darkness. What it's doing is it's making us go, oh my God, we're in environmental degradation. There's going to be no survival. Oh my God, there are pollutants and toxins. Oh my God, the animal kingdom is disintegrating. Oh my God, another school shooting. Oh my God, another war. Oh my God, another racist, and another shooting of a black man, another beating. Oh my God, women, we're losing our rights. Oh my God, more abuse, more stars falling down. Oh my God, the Congress isn't functioning. Nothing is functioning, and we're in this panic. because it's so dark. And yes, it is really dark out there, but in the perfect balance of the polarity, you cannot have extreme darkness without also having extreme light.
Because now that you put the light on in the basement,
Yeah.
I'm a little more comfortable in the basement.
Yeah. But keep the door open.
Keep the door open. But when you saw what you saw down there, you saw the roaches, or you saw this old doll that you forgot about, and you saw that old jar of pickled cucumbers. Are you going to eat it? Are you going to stay there and say, I'm in the basement now and I'm enjoying this basement? Or are you going to rise above?
Experience is really one of love, and it's really a schoolhouse for the soul and spirit. Then in order to really matriculate to the highest level of wisdom, you don't have a choice unless you want that choice, but to experience every aspect of what it means to be here. So the greatest pain and the greatest joy, the greatest hate and the greatest love, the greatest celebration and the greatest demise, the physical strength and the losing of the physicality. Like, I'm experiencing it all. And that made me giggle because I thought, wow, this is kind of beautiful.
You got to go back to what you said about the algae. What is the attachment to not doing what you're supposed to do? We all have an attachment.
We do.
To doing what we're not supposed to do, and a detachment to doing what we know we should do.
But the things that we think we weren't supposed to do, we were supposed to do because we needed the experience. I think the real question is, why do we want to stay in an experience we've already had? At some point, there's a recognition that this is a maturation process. And if I don't take a stand for the first time in my life for my daughters and other women, to say, I love my beautiful with all of its scars, its pain, its suffering, its wrinkles, its gray hair, and its fat, and its cellulite, and its woes, and its regret, and all of the mistakes that I've made, that I had to make so that I can get to this place. You know, if I can't do that, then I can't look at the bones. Mm-hmm.
I want you to look at, and you know this, so I'm reminding you and I'm gonna remind myself, we have to look at the power of thought. The power of thought, the things that we're thinking, is creating form, it is creating circumstance.
Energy, so, you're right.
It's got to go back to when you went through your ayahuasca ceremony, also with your father, speaking to your spirit, saying, you're a Dellums. So when you're in the basement, who are you crying for? Who are you grieving? That you need to not even think about that anymore, the thought. Because once I go upstairs, now I know who's with me. Once I continue to elevate, there are people who are being sent to me. You and I met out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I hit a friend like, oh, you got to work with Piper. Before you know it, you're in Florida receiving the humanitarian award. And here we are today, 4 or 5 years later. And well, not that long, but maybe
like 3 years later. Yes.
Yeah, but still, it's the 3 years later, and there's the endarkenment, but then there's the light.
Yeah.
And you said about the old and fat, and these are things that we play with our mind about, but we have to stop things. Stop it. Stinking thinking, the thoughts, the power of the mind. What are we going to do when we don't have the mind anymore?
Yeah.
So we have to work with the power that we have. We have the power of thought.
We do. And isn't it amazing how we are influenced? We're influenced by the thoughts of others, even if they're people we don't know, the way this society tells us our value as women. But also, we're walking through the world as women of color, walking through the world as older women, walking through the world as mothers. We walk through the world, and there is a silent dialogue outside of our own thoughts that permeates our thoughts and makes us believe in that collective, that their thoughts are our thoughts. This is why they say that a child, by the time they reach the age of 6 and 8, they already have an imprint of how they see the world. All of our belief systems are already embedded, rooted, and manifested by the time we reach the age of 6. And it doesn't mean we have the cognition to understand what's going on, but it doesn't change the dialogue that now becomes a process of how we walk through the world. So, a little boy is playing with his ball and begging, Daddy, come and play with me. Daddy, come and play with me. And Daddy's like, I can't, I'm busy. I can't, stop bothering me. The child hears, I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. I lack value. What Dad is saying is, I have to work, I have to work, I have to work. So a job is more important than I am. Now, the child doesn't cognitively understand at the time, Daddy has 4 jobs because he loves you. Daddy's trying to
If
make.
you don't work, you don't eat. They
That's
don't
right.
understand that. Yeah.
But that child still grows into an adult that has a rooted belief system. I'm not worthy. Money is hard to come by. I'm unlovable, and your work is more important than your family.
So take that back to when you initially felt what you felt about your father not being home. That little boy whose dad is always working. The little girl, same with me. Who told us? Who told us about this construct about the 2-parent home? The dad and the mom should be like this. Your dad should be here like that. Your mom should be here like that. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't, that it doesn't take 2.
Sure.
What I'm saying is that construct, what did we adopt? Was it a TV show that we watched? Was it the Cosby Show? Okay, so let's talk about the programming. All of the television programming said, this way,
Daddy comes home at 5.
this way, and then we all eat dinner. So every time that program was going and it didn't happen for us, chopping off the value of who we are. You hear, you are what you think about. Change your thoughts, change your life, but you really are your thoughts.
Absolutely.
You are everything you think about.
Yep, you create heaven and hell in your own head.
All of it. And so if every day I am not telling myself I'm healthy, I'm whole, I'm happy, as soon as there's a situation for me to be not well, as soon as there's a situation for me to be sad or some type of negative circumstance, I am going to buy into that every time, but I can't. I refuse. I have to be at a point in my life, not have to be, I am in a point in my life where no matter what that little feeling is, no matter what that little stuff, I am healthy, I am happy, I am whole. I can't let anybody, no one has the power to destroy my day, not even me. So as soon as I feel off, I have to arrest self. I arrest self first. Think in the morning. Oh my God, last week I felt like, you ever just feel, I don't really want to be here. Not that it's an environment. I'm talking about here in this space, in this feeling, in this moment. So my higher self, who I've been working so hard to keep elevating to ascend to, right? Take your ass out there and put your feet in the grass.
Absolutely.
You know what to do. You know what to do.
That's right.
You're not going to keep sabotaging.
Go back home to the earth.
Go back.
Every time.
Oh, I know what it is. I know the foods that make me feel ill at ease. You're not allowed to have them anymore.
That's right. That's
tequila? My girl, tequila?
You said my girl.
My girl, I can't hang with her.
I stopped drinking alcohol. I stopped eating sugar and all of that. It just naturally, my body just didn't want it. And every time I tried to convince myself, what are you doing? You're missing out. And when I say I'm missing out, and then I'll go, you know what, I'm just going to go and have a sandwich. I miss bread. And I did it. I actually did it after 5 months. I felt so sick, I threw half of it away. And I said, I don't know what it is. This was before I knew that I even had these tumors. Now I know. Sugar.
Now you know,
those tumors. Because I love bread and rice and potatoes and all that. And I was like, why am I it was making me sad. I was like, I can't even have wine. I got a whole wine collection.
Wow.
My body was telling me, stop eating anything that will translate into sugar because you have tumors growing before I even knew. So, there is a wisdom to the body. And if we listen, like you said, you don't know why Mr. Tequila's telling you, girl, not today. But we were talking about this. I walked by somebody's house. They had all these dandelions. They're my neighbors growing on their front yard. We're in the same neighborhood. All right. They have a gardener just like I do. But their dandelions keep popping up. And dandelions and dandelion root is the natural source of healing the liver. Dandelions literally follow illness. So they pop up everywhere. So I actually shared it with my neighbor. I said, you got all these dandelions and dandelion, you realize this is the earth's way, God's way of suggesting something in this area close has liver illness. And she said, I can't believe you're saying that. My husband is dying of liver psoriasis.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
And he did die.
Yeah,
But
I read
I
that
was
about
like,
the dandelions. They don't just come up. They're there for that reason.
yeah, God, yeah, no, they come up to say, people go, oh, those are weeds. I'm like, no, those are nature's doctor saying there's something wrong and you need me. We really have to get that knowledge out in the world. We have to get out in the world that there has to be not just this balance in our spirits like we're talking about, or a balance in our thoughts like we're talking about, or a balance with the shadow and the light, or the basement and reality, or all the aspects that we've been discussing. But there needs to be a balance in the earth, because that also feeds us silently, like the dandelion. Like we have all of these male trees growing everywhere, so we have these allergies and these chest pains, and our bodies are breaking down because the male tree is the only tree that continues to proliferate pollen, so they're pollinators, but we're also using all of these chemicals, so we're killing the pollinators to translate this pollen. Like the bees are dying off in massive form, and female trees are the only ones that fruit and the only ones that flower. And you're supposed to balance it out. So we would have this very even keel of healing for our lungs, our body, and there'd be the universality of free food. Trees, the algae, I said it earlier, I learned this from Dr. Sister Jenna, from the Meditation Museum, from the Brahma Kumari. So it's the ALGAE. It's the anger we have to focus on in our meditation. Find all of the things that anger us, that cause bitterness, that we haven't released, that we haven't forgiven. We always think that's about forgiving outside of ourselves. But the reality is, like, cancer are really just pockets of anger. The truth is, the anger that we swallow, we think that it's from outside influence, but it's really that we're angry at ourselves, or things that we have decided not to face, the bones, the mirror, and how we have anger. We forgive others more quickly than we forgive ourselves for our human mistakes. We hold more secrets, and then yet we force other people to go, he's deceptive, he kept a secret. But everyone holds on to secrets because they have a fear of shame, or a fear of being judged. So algae, anger, lust, and it's not just the lust of the body, the lust of the flesh. It's the lust of, I need that mansion, I need that fame, I need that job. It's covetousness, lusting after things, and it's a passionate thing, not a desire to be like, oh, I want to work really hard and get a beautiful home. But a lusting is something that's almost uncontrollable. You see salivation with it in your mind when you think about it. So that is a real flesh thing. Algae, lust, greed. We know this is what's
anger, lust,
I'm sorry.
greed.
Anger, lust, greed. We know that greed rules the world. And this is the purpose for everything, trying to control people's destiny, their bodies, their politics, their race, control media, control politics, control an industry, rob and kill. Greed really has a beautiful hand in hand with lust.
Even with appetite, even greed with appetite.
Absolutely.
You don't need to eat all of that. You don't have to have the biggest steak on the menu.
Absolutely. And that goes with lust also. Lusting after food, yeah, greed, gluttony.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we're on the E, and that's
We've got attachment.
The A, attachments. Girl, when I tell you, attachments are like a noose around when I tell you I am chained to attachments. Attachments are hard because we're attached to our emotions, we're attached to experiences, we have attachments to the past, we have attachments to labels. This is one of the most difficult things. Like, after I left my husband, I was doing the Raj Yoga and working with the Brahma Kumari, and they said, they said, they said, define a husband for me. And I defined what a husband is and what a husband is, how I would like a husband to be. I realized this is the world's definition, and there's a label on husband. And she said, take that whole label off. And now I just want you with that soul, that man. Forget the label of all you think a husband is.
Yeah.
Just you and him. And she said, just you and him, as a friend, just forget husband. And she said, what do you feel now? And I said, I started crying. I said, I feel compassion. I feel love for him. I feel compassion and sadness about his addiction. And I see the beauty in him. But I also want to embrace his weakness. And she said, isn't it funny? You have such an attachment to that title that you went into victimization, you went into rage and anger, you hated him, and you divorced him because you're attached to this title. We get attached to the title of being a parent. You know, are we a good parent? What does that even mean? You know? So attachment to labels. Once we get rid of our labels, get rid of the label of our race, get rid of the label of our name, the label of our age, all of those things we have to get rid of, because those things don't define who we are. So in order to distinguish,
So don't forget the last one before you go on.
I won't. But in order to erase attachments, we have to detach from. We have to be able to answer the question, "Who are you?" without you listing your name, your age, your race, your job, or your experiences. That's really hard to do. And once you're able to do that, your things, once you're able to say, who are you, then you have a soul connection that takes you to the true light of who you are actually meant to be and who you were born to be. That's a really difficult thing to do. And then the last thing, of course, that last E is ego, you know, and this brings us to standing outside of ourselves. We're in a society that says ego is important. That's how we ran through the 80s and 90s. When you say I am, you're speaking about the collective of all things that are God, which is the universe and everything outside of the universe. It's humanity, and all of the inhabitants of the earth and of the galaxies. I am is God. So when we speak the I am, we're supposed to be speaking into the I am presence of God. But our ego says I am is me.
I think that was good. That was a lot. That was beautiful. It was electrifying. I like using, you know, it's like you're looking for these words when really there are no words.
Yeah.
We're unlearning. This is what this is about. That's why I like reading the Tao Te Ching. And then how do you educate? You unlearn. Just stop, unlearn, just decide that I don't want to carry those conditions anymore. I don't want to carry someone else's thoughts. I need to unlearn everything. I have to be reprogrammed. That is the only way that I can continue to evolve. I use the word unlearn because I've learned them. So there are things that I have to unlearn. I had to unlearn that I'm not less than because I'm a Black girl.
Hearing your unlearn now, in my head, it comes off as unbelieve that shit.
There you go.
I hear you.
There you go. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's really what it is. It's like, wait a minute. And your life is going to make you do it. Your life. Even, you know, think about it. You have children. My children. I have 3 children. And they all had a different mama. Because the first mama, my first child, had me as a first-time mom.
That's right.
The mom of a son. And then my daughter, she had a second-time mom, the mom of a daughter. Now, you're not going to get breastfed as long as this one got breastfed because I'm at a different place. And then my third, she got a different mama too.
Come on.
So, you know, there are some things I had to unlearn and redefine.
How do I love this? I've never heard anyone say they got a different mama, but that's real. Because you're at different stages of being.
Yes. And asking my children for forgiveness, literally having to come to a place a couple years ago and then every year after that, can you forgive me because I didn't know? Like I didn't get a manual.
Did you forgive you because you didn't know?
I had to forgive me, yes. It took me longer. Because of course, in the innocence of who they are as children, sure. Because I don't want them to use the things that I used for so long. I couldn't forgive my dad for certain things. And I missed out on that father-daughter relationship.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, having to find and get it once he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Like, come on, man.
Mm.
But those were the best and the closest times of our lives. I
Mm.
don't want my children to have to be doing that with me on my
Oh,
death.
girl, so your dad had Alzheimer's.
And now. Yeah.
So your dad's illness was forgetting.
You see what I'm saying? He had to unlearn, and it took him I was literally shown that like in the spirit, and somebody actually came and told me that's what he was doing. He turned inward.
Whew. And my dad died of cancer, which are pockets of unresolved anger.
Had to come out. That's something.
Had to come out. And look, we're that generation. We have to learn these lessons from them.
So they could, and that's why your father, and my father speaks to me in the way that he does, just like yours. Because we have to rise. We're rising above it. Not we just have to. We are rising above it.
Yes.
And we have to be reminded, you don't want that smoke. You watch your father transition. I watch my father transition. I don't want that smoke. I'm not going to get that. So I focus on the exposing. I focus on bringing the light to. And I think that sounds like that's kind of where you're at right now. Your father had to show you that a few months ago with the ayahuasca journey. Yo, come on. Even with your daughters, like, we're not even attached to that anymore.
That's right. That's right.
This is whew.
Girl, you know how much I have loved this. And you know, we should, when we come back together, let's talk about, and I know that we have discussed that we need to talk about this, because a lot of what I came on board today with, that you really embraced and helped, you bring me to the basement, into the light, so I could sort of awaken and have this understanding was because there's so much collective triggering with what's going on in this Diddy case. So when we come back, the next time we come to talk, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we get in those situations, what we're seeing and how it's reflecting society.
You know what, Piper, real quick?
Yeah.
Everybody thinks just because somebody looks good and they're posting and they're smiling and they had a cute dress on, or he looks sharp in that suit at that graduation, we all got a basement. We all got shit.
But that's attachment. Those are the fig leaves. That's the whole point. We're staring at the fig leaves, and God is looking at that person also and going, where are you? You know what? You did talk about going out into the earth. You talked about thoughts, being the greatest manifester. And I know people are gonna watch this, even if it's just me listening, going back, and I thank you for your wisdom. Could we end with I do digital art. I create meditations, and I do with Dr. Sister Ivy, another beautiful sister.
I love her. Thank you for introducing us.
I love her.
I listen to her meditation music.
She's amazing.
That's what
Well, she and I put together a meditation called Manifest.
Yeah.
That I feel like is a part of what's happening here. So why don't we close out with Manifest?
Yes.
And then we'll come back to discuss some of these world issues or see where it goes.
In your mind. inner mind. Become aware of your thoughts as they float by, one by one, becoming greater than what and who you are. Awareness. Intention. The mind is a part of your invisible body. It is time to prepare your mind and your body for perfect peace and manifest. Close your eyes very gently. Place your hands on your lap with your palms facing upward. Sit with your breath. floating back and forth, back and forth in your sacred space. You have come to a point in your life where you are preparing to move beyond any fear or blockages to your ability to manifest. Relax. Breathe deeply and easily. And now, as you are training your mind and your body to relax and focus on the areas in your life that you desire to manifest. Worries, fear, and the stress are gone. You are feeling the power of your mind right now. Embrace the emotion of your intentions as if it has already happened. You are relaxed, confident,